Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Elaine.
Nice to see your face.
Nice to see yours too.
Really excited about this. I think everyone has a LinkedIn profile, or most professionals do, but it's always nice to hear the latest tips and tricks, especially from a recruiter's point of view, on how to improve our LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah. As some of you may know, I'm Amanda Bolint. I am a senior technical talent manager with 52 Limited. Over the course of the nearly 9 years that I've been doing this, I've used LinkedIn extensively. And actually, LinkedIn has about 500 million users globally, and their estimation is about 90% of recruiting companies have access to or subscribe to LinkedIn Recruiter. Hiring managers will look at all of your social media profiles, but LinkedIn is something that they're going to obviously evaluate the most. So the intent of this talk is to kind of go through a couple of profile boosting tips and then leave some room at the end for questions. So as professionals, most of you have LinkedIn profiles, but there's a couple of things that might be helpful to boost. As a recruiter, the first thing that I look at, especially, is the summary. I want to learn a little bit about your professional brand, what you're looking for in a position, kind of what your background is like. So think of the summary as management of your professional brand. It's the first thing that someone's going to probably look at. It's not like a resume summary, however, so it's not really an intention statement. It's more of a description of your background and what you're interested in. For example, mine's a little bit silly, but I also want people to know that I'm approachable and hopefully funny. Mine says dog mom, crochet wizard, roller derby fan, and science fiction enthusiast. I have a little bit of information about how to contact me in that summary, but that's because I'm not actively looking for jobs. If you're actively looking for a new position, you really want to use that summary space to show who you are as a professional, maybe a little bit of personal energy in there so you're relatable and you have some rapport building with your, potential new employer. So LinkedIn is very great to manage your professional brand, especially in that summary section. So LinkedIn's also, the overall intention is to build your network and track your professional progress and milestones. But it's also, not a resume. Something to think about is that you don't want to just dump all of your resume content into your LinkedIn. It's a summary, it's a snapshot, it's something that's supposed to kind of draw somebody in and keep them interested, but it's not intended to just be a resume. I think a big mistake that a lot of job applicants are making nowadays is using their, turning their LinkedIn profile into a PDF and sending that out. We need a little bit more detail than that when we're evaluating you for a position. But the LinkedIn profile is to give you a little taste and to keep you interested. So that's something to think about, is really bolstering that summary and making sure that the content is, a few bullet points versus, your whole professional career at a given role. Another thing that I have noticed, especially a lot lately, is people that are fairly new to LinkedIn haven't edited their LinkedIn URL. You go into your public profile settings. It's kind of on the upper right-hand corner when you log on to your kind of edit profile page. So edit your custom URL to, your first and last name, just your last name, kind of whatever ends up working best for you. So that it's easier to throw as a link on your resume and it looks clean and professional. You can also edit your profile visibility from that same kind of right-hand column, including who can see the content that you post, as well as your profile pictures, etc. One thing that, it's kind of annoying, but the more people that have LinkedIn profile pictures, you're more likely to get, contacted or reached out to. So make sure that those pictures are professional. If you can have somebody take a picture of you with a nice clean backdrop, you're wearing something, professional and, as if you were going to an interview, I think that's really the best tactic to take. I've seen cropped out wedding photos or people that just are holding up their dogs, which is really adorable, but at the same time, it's not really putting your best foot forward to a potential employer. Recommendations and endorsing, I think, are fairly important as well to keep in mind. If you can ask anybody that you've worked with for recommendations, these are the people that would be your professional references anyway. Ask them to write a quick recommendation on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy. They don't have to write a lot of content, just a few notes about your past performance, experience, and personality. LinkedIn is starting to come out with a lot of really great content, learning content, and they've also come out with skills quizzes. I don't think a lot of companies are using the skills quizzes to evaluate people too much at this point, but they may in the future. So something to look into, maybe start bolstering some skills, do some of the LinkedIn learning, finish those courses and do skills quizzes to kind of prepare for however that might look in the future, especially if you have downtime right now. Also make sure to not only add your portfolio, your GitHub, your website link into the portfolio link section, but also add it into your summary. I think that's super important for visibility. Elaine, I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to open up for questions, see if anybody had anything they'd like to know.
Of course. Go ahead and use your, looks like we have someone who has raised their hand. Hold on just a second. Allie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Please ask us your question.
How would you say the best way to represent the work you've done at different locations you've worked at? Like, how long should the section below each job be?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of flexibility with that, but keep in mind you don't want it to be your full kind of resume content. I think because it's kind of intended to track milestones and achievements, maybe you summarize your role, quick paragraph, 3 or 4 sentences, and then mark all of the achievements and the big things that you learned, the big things that you were responsible for. But keep it, pretty brief. You don't want it to all end up being more than a paragraph.
Does anyone else have a question that they'd like to either raise their hand or add to the Q&A box? In the meantime, I'd also like to remind everyone that as you're in the settings, changing your profile, it might be a good idea if you're doing a wholesale change to your LinkedIn profile to turn the setting off to notify those that you are connected to, because then they'll see every single change that you make. But to be sure to turn that back on once you have made, you've completely updated your profile.
Absolutely, and that's a really great point that I forgot to bring up. Thanks, Elaine.
I think there's a lot in the settings that people kind of tend to forget about, like the summary that you spoke of, the personalized URL address I think is really valuable. What about like organizations and volunteer, things that may or may not be professionally related? Are those valuable to include?
I think they're valuable to include. Personally, as a recruiter, I'm looking for a little bit of information so that I can build rapport with you and talk about your interests, not just your professional goals, because I think those all tie in together regardless. So I think adding volunteer work or get professional organizations you're involved with. For example, on my my LinkedIn profile, I have that I've been involved with Girl Scouts since I was a little kid. That I volunteer. I was essentially a candy striper and volunteered at a hospital. So those things are just kind of nice to put on there. I think especially if there are professional organizations you belong to in HR, for example, SHRM is a good one to add on there if you are a part of maybe an agile group. That's something also to add in there. If you volunteered for Chick Tech or STEM Like a Girl, good things to also put on there.
Bailey has a question. She's wondering about the etiquette of reaching out to a recruiter. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's no really right way to do it. I think that the best thing is to be transparent and honest and let them know, I'm looking for a position. I saw one on your website, or kind of refer to whatever kind of brought them to your attention, and just ask. I think most recruiters, especially in Portland, are really darn friendly and super happy to help and at least kind of try to point you in some directions. I can't say that about every market, but I think that at least the tech community here and the creative community are really great. So if you reach out to a recruiter, they're likely to respond. Don't panic if it takes them a couple of days. We do get a lot of that kind of outreach. But yeah, I think reaching out to a recruiter, especially after you applied for a position and you feel that you're a good fit, is a good way to go to kind of, raise your hand.
What about in LinkedIn? I know that you can recommend people or award people, like they're really great at social media promotion. And I noticed that some of the ones that I have been, nominated for or people have endorsed me for aren't necessarily what I would consider my strongest attributes or skills. Do recruiters look at those? Is it important to nominate other people or endorse other people? Do they have any value?
I think that they have some value. I think the important thing is that that skills section that you have added and that you have provided content for. So for example, if marketing, events, communications are kind of your strong suits, you would have added those into your skills section on LinkedIn. And that's what makes you searchable to recruiters. So just having that content in there is great, but I don't think we pay attention to at least I don't pay attention to the endorsements as much, because I really want to talk to the individual about their experience with that and kind of find that out for myself. It's nice to see that like 20 people think that you're great at marketing, but that's not enough information for me, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think all of this has been hugely, hugely helpful. I know that as we are at home at this time, it's nice to have something to do. And LinkedIn, just like your resume, should be something that is constantly updated or ready to go at any given point in time, especially during this time. So thank you so much, Amanda, for those great tips and tricks. This will be posted on our YouTube channel and posted on social media on 52's LinkedIn page. Thank you so much for spending 10 minutes with 52 Limited. I hope everyone is healthy and safe. Thanks.
Thank you.